ठीक है. Good evening to all. Sorry for the delay. How are you? How many of you attended previous 100 topic programs? History, geography. How many of you are new for polity?
Last year.
This year. This year, anybody new? Newcomer, only for polity? Okay. We'll be having 10 classes. 10 classes. We'll try to cover most of the topics. First of all, we'll study, then we will try to solve the questions. Right? Today we are going to study political theory and concepts. Very important. Generally, these topics, ideas are not taught, but UPSC have the habit of asking questions. We will study it properly. It will take some time. So, although the class is from 5 to 7, I hope you can fit till 7:30 or depending upon the requirement, right? Any problem? Okay. My name is Reghu. Some of you might know me. But anyway, after the class, you will know me better. Few things are necessary to tell you. Few things are necessary. That is the number of questions that you get from polity in PT examination. If you see this graph or this data, in general, you will find that around 15 questions on an average come from polity. 15 question means 30 marks. And is it possible to score 30 marks? Yes. What is the cutoff for general category students in 2022 main PT examination? 86, 88, 88, 2021, 2020, 2020, 92, 92, 2010, sorry, 2019. So we can say that the cutoff is hovering around 90 if you are from general category, and for others they might be having some relaxation. One advice I have for you is, if you are able to get the category, use it. Now the government has expanded the scope of reservation, economically weaker section, isn't it? So if you are able to, if you fall in that eligible criteria, then try to get that certificate. In fact, UPSC has recently amended some of the rules regarding these certificates and others. Read the notification, the current notification, 2024 notification thoroughly. UPSC also said that your photo, have you read about that? No. Should read, go home and read the notification, right? Because the notification explains the scheme of the examination. Not only tells you about the syllabus of the examination, but also it tells you the structure of the examination, the requirement of the examination. How to fill the application form, what all documents are required, all these things will be covered there. It is necessary to read the notification. As far as polity is concerned, generally we have 15 questions. It is not possible to attempt, it is not possible to get all 15 questions correct. And it is not necessary. Given the fact that the cutoff hovers around 90, below 90 sometimes, we should not be working towards attempting all questions in all the subjects. If you see economy, around 18 questions come. If you see environment, 18 to 20 sometimes. Always keep the cutoff in mind. Always keep the cutoff in mind. When you keep the cutoff in mind, depending upon your category, what you will know that I don't have to attempt 100 questions. It will help you to leave some questions. It will help you to reduce your negative marks. it will help you to be stabilized in the examination hall. It will help you to be emotionally stable in the examination. Remember this. Whenever you are solving questions in the class, outside, test series, always keep the cutoff in mind. Because what you do here and in the test series offender and also in your room is what you repeat, replicate in the examination hall. So practice that way. So 15. We have provided the scheme of the classes, right? You have that syllabus, don't you? Yes. Today we are going to discuss something called what is the topic of today? This one. What are you going to study? Polity, economy, geography, what is that you are going to study today? Polity. What is the meaning of the word polity? Our entire discussion of this class will start from polity. What is the meaning of the word polity? What is the meaning? Meaning of polity. Even though I have attended a handwriting improving class, my handwriting got worsened. I have some problem with respect to, if you have problem in reading properly, you can ask me. Anyway, what is the meaning of the word polity? What's your name? Avinash. Avinash, tell me. Polity?
Polity is like the structure of any country on which its administration depends.
Okay, structure of any country. Political circle, system of the country. Anything else? State affairs. Okay, anything else? System of governance. Anything else? Online students, you can also participate. Anything else? It is true that the word polity has multiple definition, multiple meaning, multiple interpretation. But I am going to take one interpretation which will help us in proceeding and understanding many relevant concepts. I am going to define polity this way. State as a political entity. My definition is this. State as a political entity. The word state, you must have come across this word state. A state can be a state like a province, like Kerala, Karnataka, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, province. State can be mental state, physical state. Isn't it? State can be state of material, liquid state, gaseous state, something like that. But the state what we are going to study today is the state which is a political entity. Political entity. Not other notions or interpretation of state we are not going to take. Because the essence of polity depends upon state. We will understand what is state. Then we will proceed. It is necessary to understand the word state first. Because you are studying polity. Polity is state as a political entity. What is the meaning of word state in the context of polity or politics or political science? Article 12 is state. Fine. Very good. Anything else?
State is a governing body.
State is a governing body. Okay. There are again multiple definitions of state. One definition UPSC asked. We'll have the question, we'll solve that later. It is necessary to know a proper definition of state. But all the more important is to know the characteristics of state. There are multiple scholars who have defined states in multiple ways. Max Weber, you must have heard about Max Weber. Max Weber said that state is a human community human community having legitimacy over violence. That organization which has legitimacy over violence or coercive authority is state. The police in India, is it a private organization or public organization? So police is something part of government. Police can carry arms and ammunition, etc. Can you carry? Without license, you cannot carry. If some, let's say, you must have heard about this idea or let's say principle. Do not take law unto your hands. What does it mean? Who can take law unto your hands? State can take, the police, the administration can take. The monopoly of violence. Violence in the sense, it can be physical violence, legal, whatever that might be. The state has that violence, that monopoly. Whenever something happens, generally people call the police, isn't it? Not? The people generally do not take law into their hands. They do not try to solve it. What they do? Call police. Why? Police even have the power to shoot at you. The district magistrate or some of you might be preparing for the examination. For what? To give orders, lathi charge. Isn't it? Firing. Now what is happening in Haryana and Punjab border? The police is firing. Rubber bullets, whatever that might be, water cannons and others. What if the farmers retaliate in the same manner? They cannot do that. Then the police will be more stronger against them. They will use more violence. Point is that state has monopoly over violence. But anyway, we are not dealing with that definition. We need to understand some essential characteristics of state. The word state has 4 essential characteristics, 4 essential factors, 4 essential fundamentals. What are they? They are, anybody? Government. Sovereignty. Can you read? I am writing this way. Sovereignty. Anybody having any problem, ask me. Any problem? No. Sovereignty. Population. Then territory. State is a political entity having 4 essential characteristics. Number 1, sovereignty. Number 2, territory. Number 3, population. Number 4, government. Government and sovereignty. What is the meaning of the word sovereignty? Sovereignty. Huh? Okay. So internally and externally independent. Sovereignty means internally and externally independent. Other words, sovereignty is supreme authority. Supreme authority. The state, the Indian state, the USA state is sovereign. When we say they are sovereign, means they are able to take decision within their territory without being influenced by other nations. You will understand this very easily. Let me ask you one thing. Whether India was sovereign till August 1947, August 15, 1947. What was the status of India? Was India sovereign? India was a colony or dependency. So the status of India was colony or dependency. Whatever that might be. What's your name? Name? Shivram. Are you able to understand? Shivram Karanth. Karanth, you know? Shivram Karanth? Anybody? Not a problem. Colony, dependency. Now tell me, what was the status from 15th August 1947 till 26 Jan 1956? I would say 25. Let's take 25, don't worry. 25. Because 26 we became in republic. What was the status? Dominion status. What is the meaning of the word dominion? Although that state or the region has self-government, but it is ultimately controlled by some other authority. So your authority or whatever sovereignty is left within you is ultimately controlled by other. Who was the real sovereign? The British queen or king, whoever that might be, or British Parliament, or the British state, you can say. So India was a dominion under Commonwealth. So dominion has limited sovereignty, in the sense that it was subordinate. The dominion of India was subordinate to the higher sovereign. Who was that sovereign? British state. Clear? Now what happened in 26 Jan 1956? Sorry, 1950? What is the preamble of India says? India, sovereign, socialist later, sovereign secular republic, sovereign. So India became sovereign in the full sense of the term after we became republic. Now you understand what is the meaning of sovereign, because in between India was fully controlled. Here still control was there by an external authority. Here internally and externally independent. India's foreign policy, can any country dictate to India? We are a sovereign nation and we have the mandate of the people as well as we have authority. We have the sovereignty to take decision. So how India will deal with Russia will be decided by India, not by USA. Whether India will condemn Israel's attack on Gaza will be decided by India. Are you able to understand sovereignty? Now the question is, in democracies, democratic governments, who have the sovereignty? Which is the organization, which is the instrument or institution, or which entity has the sovereignty? Government has the sovereignty or the people have the sovereignty? Democratic governments function on the basis of popular sovereignty. We the people of India, right? Similarly USA, UK, popular sovereignty. So, sovereignty in modern times is popular sovereignty. Popular means people-led. The source of sovereignty in modern times, modern democratic government, lies with the people. Popular sovereignty. But because of the large number of people, they cannot exercise their sovereignty. We require some institutions which will exercise sovereignty on behalf of the people. That institution is the government. Government exercises the sovereignty on behalf of the people. Are you able to understand what I am trying to say? So who exercises the sovereignty on behalf of the people? The government. Now the question is this. Can the government exercise absolute sovereignty? Or in other words, can there be something called absolute sovereignty? In other words, can the government take any decision? Before explaining that, what is the meaning of the word government? I'll give you some options. Tell me which of the following is the best explanation of government. Number 1, president. Number 2, prime minister. Number 3, council of ministers headed by the prime minister. Number 4, none of the above. Council of ministers headed by the prime minister at the union level is the government. When the word government is used, elected element is there. Government is elected. And the bureaucracy is, admission is selected. You are preparing for what? Selection, not election. So when the word government is used, always keep in mind, the government means political executive. Elected political executive. Government means elected political executive. In Indian context, we can say at the union level, who? The council of ministers, the PM heading the COM, or in other words, we can say cabinet. Now the council of ministers headed by the prime minister can take any decision if it's possible. They will say sovereignty, internal as well as external. Leave aside external. Let us limit ourselves to the internal affairs of the country. Can the government say, we are elected and we are having the authority and we exercise the popular sovereignty, and sovereignty is indivisible, not controlled by anybody. So can the government exercise unrestrained, uncontrolled sovereignty? In other words, can the government take any decision? Can the government take any decision? Why? Constitution limits their powers. Okay, fine, very good. But we'll see that later. Because the governments in modern democracies cannot exercise absolute sovereignty or absolute power or unlimited power or unlimited authority, is because the modern democratic governments are based on the principle of constitutionalism. Are you there with me? I am going in this manner. I can teach it separately. Government, constitutionalism, rule of law. But there is a link. Are you with me? Yes or no? Keep writing. Because these things you will not get, hardly you will get it. Keep writing. Because it will help you in solving a question. At least 2 questions you will get. We have the previous year's questions, we will solve it. Then you will understand the importance of this lecture. What I am trying to say is, modern period, in modern democracies, government cannot be absolute. Government cannot say we have absolute sovereignty. There is no question of unrestrained sovereignty. Why? Because the democratic governments work on the principle of constitutionalism. What principles? What is the meaning of the word constitutionalism? What is it? You already know all these things. Limited government. Constitutionalism is the idea that the governmental power should be regimented, domesticated. These things, the way I am explaining, you will not get. UPSC have the habit of playing with words. They will use this because they know you only know limited government. Right? Domesticated power. Governmental power should be domesticated. What is the meaning of the word domestication? Controlling. Domestic animal. What is the meaning of that? Controlled animal. Because the behavior of the animal is controlled, restricted. Domesticated. Constitution is the idea that the governmental power should be limited, domesticated, regimentalized. The governmental power should be based on checks and balances. So constitutionalism says that no government should have absolute authority. There cannot be any absolutism in government. When the word government is used here, it should be seen not only in the context of, let's say, the council of ministers heading the prime minister. Let me ask you one thing. We are saying that the government cannot take any absolute action. Can the administration take? The civil service? Can they? Can the court take? No. Which means that in a democracy, not only the government, but other organs, other instrumentalities, other agencies, even the people themselves cannot take any absolute decision. So absolutism is not present in democracies working on the basis of constitutionalism. It essentially means that constitutionalism is not only applicable to the government, but to its agencies, instrumentalities, the civil services, the media, the people in general. But its primary focus of constitutionalism is government. The power of the government should be limited. Why only government? Not only government, why government? Because if you see the history of constitutionalism, can you tell me the main proponent of this idea? John Locke. Rousseau and others have in the writings of these individuals, we will see the roots of constitutionalism. Although we can say that the Athenian or let's say the Greek philosophers. But anyway, the modern notion of constitutionalism, we'll see Locke, Rousseau and others. Tell me. Which state? No.
Sir, only democratic government is not in sense, or other government also can be.
We will classify government later. Democratic government, non-democratic government, don't worry. The point I'm trying to make is that constitutionalism means government, essentially. Because then, this Locke and others were writing in 17th century. 17th century was monarchy, non-democracy. So the monarchy had absolute power. So in order to control the exercise of absolute power, these ideas, philosophies were developed. If you see the history of constitutionalism, there are some developments which have happened in the history of human civilization. Have you heard about Magna Carta? Magna Carta, a document signed by the King of England in 1215, which essentially reduced the power of the monarch. So the journey of constitutionalism is taking the power from the monarch and giving to people. Ultimately, monarch had absolute power. So power is reduced through Magna Carta. Then we have Glorious Revolution. Have you heard about this? Glorious Revolution, where? UK. Further power of the monarch reduced. Power of the people increased. Then French Revolution. Then American Revolution. American Constitution. So this is the history of constitutionalism. But the fundamental point is that if you see the works of these individuals, the documents, the fundamental idea has been limit the power of the government. Reduce the power of the government. Government cannot be absolute. So constitutionalism essentially means the power of the government should be reduced, limited, restricted, controlled. There are some essential elements of constitutionalism.
Why we say constitutional supremacy if it is restrict the government power?
The power of the government can be restricted through multiple.
Then how constitution is a constitutional supremacy?
You will understand this. I am going to explain some elements of constitutionalism. Rule of law. One of the important requirement or factors of constitutionalism is rule of law. Second, separation of powers. Third, presence of the Indian context fundamental right. Fourth, independent judiciary. Fifth, independent media, etc. We will be focusing on rule of law. I will explain, don't worry. I will explain your question. Rule of law is an essential element of constitutionalism. What is the meaning of the word rule of law? Law is the ultimate king. Anything else? Absence of arbitrary power. Fine. Anything else? There are some concepts which are related to rule of law. What are they? Due process of law, DPL. Procedure established by law. Equality before law. Are you able to understand this? Due process, procedure established by law, and equality before law. We are not dealing with equal protection of law because that is not with this rule of law. Rule of law essentially means what? Rule of law essentially means all individuals should be subject to the same set of law. In fact, if you see the traditional conceptual explanation of rule of law given by Dicey in 18th century England, he says, according to Dicey, rule of law has following elements. What are the elements of rule of law? all people should be subject to same set of laws. All people should be subject to same set of laws. Keep writing. Number 2, these laws will be administered by the ordinary courts. Number 3, there will not be any privileges. Number 4, there will not be discretion to the administration. Number 5, there will not be any arbitrary power. Number 6, you see why am I dictating this, why am I telling you this way? Because if you read the text, the language is complicated, it's difficult for you. Right? Those who are able to write, it's better. Next, according to Dicey's rule of law, he says, rights are pre-constitutional. According to Dicey's rule of law, rights, what are they? Rights. Rights are pre-constitutional. Pre-constitutional. What does it mean? Because the rights of the people are not given by the Constitution. Although there is a Constitution, the Constitution only documents those rights. Rights are pre-constitutional. In Indian context, the Constitution of India is the source of rights of citizens. Clear? This 6th point is the only difference between the concept of rule of law and equality before law. Equality before law and rule of law. What is the difference? Equality before law in Indian Constitution and rule of law as a concept. The only difference is the rights as per rule of law are pre-constitutional. They essentially mean that people had right. It is not the government, nor the Constitution, nor the Parliament which gave them. People had the right to life, liberty, property, etc. But in Indian context, no. In Indian context, Constitution of India is the source of the rights of individuals. You will understand this concept. Why? Because there are 2 types of constitution. We will discuss that later. Written and unwritten. In Dicey's UK, unwritten constitution. In any way, 1215, this Magna Carta, Glorious Revolution, all these documents, or all these events were aimed at creating rights to people. I am simply saying, in India, equality before law and the concept of rule of law. The only difference is rights are pre-constitutional. Where? According to Dicey's rule of law. Are you able to understand? Some of your understanding might have taken a beating. In the sense that some of you might not be willing to unlearn something. Because you must have read these aspects in a different way. So either you have to trust me or you have to trust yourself. What is that you want to do? That you can decide after the class. Right? I cannot force you, but I can tell you the right thing. Rule of law. What is procedure established by law? Procedure established by law.
So we have to follow the steps that are laid down by law. Like to make any legislation, you have to follow a given set of steps. And if we follow the steps in a correct manner, then only the procedure we have followed will stand behind.
Okay. Vijayalal, okay, fine, explain that. This natural justice later. Procedure established by law. A person's right to life and liberty can be deprived if there is a procedure established by law. As per procedure established by law, your life and liberty can be deprived. So, in order to deprive means what? Reduce, curtail, taken away, limit. What is required? A law is required. A law is required. And second, the law should give a procedure. Procedure established by law. Law established a procedure. So in order to deprive a person's liberty and or life, what is required? A law is required. Second is procedure. So when there is a law called Law A, this law has provided for a procedure. What is the meaning of that procedure? The way something is done. So law provides a mandatory procedure. Procedure X. Me, as citizen, the police came to me and arrested me under this law and following this procedure. But I challenged my arrest in the court. The court, if they follow only procedure established by law doctrine, will only look into two aspects, whether there is a law made by the legislature, whether the parliament or the state, competent legislature. And the law provides a procedure and whether the police has followed the procedure. Doctrine of procedure established by law is a doctrine for judicial review. But the scope of this doctrine is very limited. Why? The court will only look whether there is a law, whether the legislature is competent to enact that law. Competency means what? State list or the union list. And whether the law provides a procedure. Whether the procedure is valid, the court will not look into because the law provides a procedure. Whether the procedure is fair, reasonable, the court will not look into. In 1950, in India, A.K. Gopalan case, Preventive Detention Act was challenged. Because when a person is detained under preventive detention law, then the general remedies available to others are not applicable. Counsel, hearing, all those things. Supreme Court then applied only procedure established by law. Supreme Court said the PDA, Preventive Detention Act 1950, is a law. The Parliament has the competency to enact, and it has provided a procedure, and you are arrested or detained under that procedure. We will not look into whether the procedure is just or reasonable or fair. Fairness of the procedure will not be looked into. Whether the procedure is reasonable, we will not see that. Procedure established by law. What if the court uses this procedure or this doctrine? Due process of law. When the due process doctrine is applied. Now, what is the meaning of this word due process? A process that which is due. A process that has to be followed. The process which is just. A process which is fair also. When the due process doctrine is applied, the court will ask two questions. Number one, whether the concerned legislature should have made that law. Whether the concerned legislature should have made that law. In other words, whether the legislature has the power to make that law. Whether the legislature has the power to make that law. Second, whether the procedure which is given is fair or just. Due process of law, DPL, can be further divided into two components. Procedural due process and substantive due process. Due process of law or due process can be divided into two, procedural and substantive. Procedural due process is also known as natural justice, principle of natural justice. Keep writing if you want. Otherwise, this video is available in YouTube. You can watch later also. Not a problem. Due process of law can be procedural. Procedural due process means what? Whether the procedure given by the law is fair. Now, how do you assert it is fair or not? Whether arresting me, notice is given to me. The grounds for arrest is given to me. Whether I was permitted to consult a lawyer. Whether the order by the police or the magistrate, whoever that might be, is a speaking order. Whether refunds are given. Whether I was given the opportunity to cross-examine. Fair process. Are you able to understand? Procedural.
Procedural due process is same as procedural.
Absolutely no. In procedure established by law, the court will not look into the procedure whether it is just or fair, just or reasonable. No. The only test or the only application is whether there is a law, and the competency is there to enact that law, and whether law has a procedure and the administration or the agency has followed that procedure. Whether the procedure is just, fair, reasonable, it will not look into. But in due process of law, not only the fairness of the procedure, but also whether the concerned legislature should have made that law will also be looked into.
And on the procedural part of the due process and procedure established by law. For
These are conceptually different, na?
not DPL and PEL, but the procedural part of DPL and the PEL.
This procedural part is part of DPL or PEL.
No, I'm asking a different.
I am asking you one question. This DPL is this procedural due process is part of DPL or PEL? DPL. Are PEL and DPL different? Yes. So this is a subcategory, na? This is a subcategory of DPL. So procedural due process. In procedural due process, the only commonality is procedural. Due process है उसमें नहीं है ना? So procedural due process is different because procedural due process is a subset of or component of due process of law. Procedural due process, whether the procedure is fair or just, reasonable, whether notice is given.
So could we say the procedural part is the letter or the DPL is the spirit part?
No. How? These two are entirely different concepts. You tell me in which scenario, that is, if the court applies procedure established by law or due process of law, in which scenario the rights of citizens are protected, the liberty of people are protected? DPL. So how these are different? No letter and spirit wala system. Procedure established by law is given in Article 21. When the procedure established by law is used, then the power of the state is higher. The rights of the citizens are lesser. When procedure established by law is used, only administrative action is scrutinized. Action of police. But from which standpoint? Whether the police or the administration has followed that procedure which is given in that law. Whether there should be a law, will not. Whether the procedure is fair or just, will not. Because the procedure established by law says, what? Law should be there and the administration should follow the procedure. The police should follow the procedure. That's it. Due process of law has two components. Procedural due process. This procedural due process will look into the procedural aspects. Whether the procedure given by that law is fair or just. Clear? Yes or no? Substantive due process. Whether there should have been a law itself. Whether the concerned legislature is permitted to enact such a law. Whether the concerned legislature is permitted to enact such a law. It essentially means when due process is used, the law-making power of the legislature is also scrutinized. The law-making power of the legislature is also scrutinized. Right to privacy is a fundamental right, isn't it? Does right to privacy have any implication with your freedom, liberty, life? Right to privacy came from Article 21, isn't it? Huge implication. Now, what if the parliament brings a law? What if the parliament brings a law which says that there is no fundamental right to privacy? The Supreme Court will see, we have declared this as a law and now you are bringing a law. Uniform Civil Code law has been brought. Uttarakhand. It will be challenged. Now, do you think that, and this Uniform Civil Code has provided a procedure? Multiple, let's say, take the example of live-in relationship, live-in. The concerned couple should declare that there is a registrar, there is police. If you are below 21, the concerned registrar will inform your parents. There is a procedure. So not only the Supreme Court will see whichever court that might be, High Court, whether the procedure is reasonable, fair or just, but also whether the law is valid, given the judgment. Are you able to understand? Substantial due process. Basic structure doctrine. Is a doctrine? The Constitution cannot be amended if the amendment violates basic structure. There are some elements of basic structure which are essentially dealing with your fundamental rights under Article 21. So when basic structure acts as a limitation on the lawmaking power of the legislature, when a law is made by the concerned legislature or any amendment made to the Constitution, if it affects those elements of basic structure, then the substantial due process will also be used. I simply want to tell you one thing, that this due process of law has two elements, procedural as well as substantial. Generally, the courts in India are using this one. Because when they apply this, it essentially challenges the lawmaking capacity or power of the legislature. It violates something called separation of power.
In procedural detail, if the procedure is not fair, then court can...
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Why not? You see that demolition. This is a very recent phenomena, in the sense that you read multiple demolitions being conducted by the administration, especially in Delhi, if you see the MCD, the DDA, etc., etc. Many times individuals' properties have been demolished without fair procedure. Notice is not given. One fine day, this bulldozer comes and demolishes your house, which is not sanctioned by law. The procedure is notice, show cause notice. Why the authority should not demolish your property? Because it is an illegal structure. Show cause. Then me, if it is my property, then I will reply. This is how the procedure is. Municipal authorities can demolish illegal structures, properties and others, but they should follow a procedure which is laid down in law. If the authorities do not follow the procedure, then the concerned court can hold the administration or the municipal authorities accountable. In Madhya Pradesh, what happened? The municipality of Indore or some other municipality has demolished one of the property of one lady. This lady went to High Court of Madhya Pradesh. The concerned municipality has been ordered to pay compensation. But this will happen in both. Why? Procedure established by law. The administration did not follow the procedure. Administration did not follow the procedure. There is a law, municipal law, which says that you can demolish the structure provided you follow the procedure. But the administration did not follow the procedure. If the procedure says that no advance notice should be given, if there is a procedure, no advance notice should be given. Under procedure established by law, you cannot go to court. Because there is a procedure. The procedure is no advance notice should be given. Simply means the bulldozer can come any time and demolish your house. But you tell me whether procedure is fair or just or reasonable. No, it is not. I'm just giving an example, it is not. But whether the procedure is fair or not will be only looked into when you apply this due process of law.
So in case of PEA, so show cause notice will not be considered then, because it is not considering the procedure, it is only considering there is a law.
Procedure established by law says there should be a law and the implementation authority should follow the procedure given in that law.
But the authority is violating the procedure.
If there is violation, if the authority does not follow the procedure, then as per procedure established by law, the administration can be held accountable. But I am simply saying that there is a procedure in that law. The procedure says that no notice should be given. No advance notice should be given if the authority believes that the property is illegal. So this is the procedure, na? Authority believes this is illegal structure, came and demolished. You apply due process. Then only you will see whether the procedure is just or fair or reasonable. Okay? Are you able to understand what I am trying to say? So whenever the due process of law doctrine is applied, then there is more scrutiny over the activities of the legislature, the government, the administration, and more protection to the rights of people. Yes or no? Procedure established by law means utilizing or adopting or implementing the principles of natural justice. What is natural justice? There are two essential principles of natural justice. What are they? Hear the other side, number one. Hear the other side. Hear the other side, no. Let's say my property going to be demolished. You should hear me. Why? I should be given an opportunity to present my case. A criminal. Let's take the example of this Kasab. All of you, or let's say the most of India saw what he did. Still, a procedure was followed. He was given opportunity to defend. His side was heard. Why? Natural justice. Hear the other side. Before imposing a penalty, before taking a decision, before taking an action, the concerned authority should hear the point of view of that person. Hear the other side. How can you hear the other side? If proper notice is given, then I will be having an opportunity to present my case or not. If proper notice is given, then will I have the opportunity to present my case? If giving prior notice satisfy one element of natural justice or not? Batao. What is natural justice? One element of natural justice is hear the other side. Right? Let's say me, I ask you to study something. Tomorrow you did not study. So I ask some question, you are not able to answer. But without giving an opportunity to explain why did you not study, I punished you. I violated natural justice. If I give an opportunity to explain, then one element of natural justice should be is what? Satisfied. Similarly, municipality, property, give an opportunity. How? Notice should be given. I am just giving an example. Or call me into the office, give an opportunity. Second element of natural justice. No one should be a judge in his or her own cause. Me. It was me who gave you a task and you did not complete. So it is my case that you did not complete the task. But if I start punishing you for that, then there is what? Biasness possibility. Conflict of interest. So other party should be there. A person committed crime. Crimes are generally against the society and the state. So essentially the state or the government prosecute. Right? But it is the judiciary that gives you punishment, not the government. Because if a person who has interest in a case or in an issue, then there is a possibility of conflict of interest, biasness. I want a property. I am from a municipality. I am the municipal commissioner. I want a particular person's property. Right? So I decided to demolish it so that I can capture it. I said that the property is illegal. And I know that I can justify that in whatever grounds that might be. But the fundamental point is that my interest in that property violated my order. You must have heard that civil servants, one of the code of conduct of civil servant is what? Whenever the civil servant has to award a contract or a tender, if his or her relatives or friends or somebody else is there, then it is ideal that the civil servant should not decide it. Somebody else should do that. Essentially means natural justice means following certain procedures, fair procedures, which are included under procedural due process. Why I am explaining this? You will understand why. You will understand when we solve the questions later. 2023 PT examination. One question was asked. What is that? In essence, what does due process mean? One option was natural justice. Right? But the answer is not this natural justice. That we will see later. Why? It is necessary to understand concept. Are you with me till now? What I am trying to explain. Rule of law, due process, procedure established by law, substantial due process, procedural due process.
So, principles of national justice will be part of both procedural due process and...
Sorry. Dhire.
Principle of national justice will be part of both procedural due process and procedure established by law.
Yes. Because, but the point is this. What if the procedure established by law does not give any scope for that? Ideally it should be. If the procedure established by law says the law does not give any procedure, or let's say that the law says there should not be any notice be given, it is not necessary to hear the other side. This is a procedure. It is possible that procedure established by law does not satisfy natural justice. But this, whether it is satisfied natural justice or not, will only be looked into when you apply due process of law. Because whether it is fair or just, it will be looked into only when you apply due process. You cannot see whether the procedure is fair or just, whether there is natural justice or etc. You cannot see. The court will not use it. I am giving a hypothetical example.
Then in case of procedural due process, the law will be challenged then?
In case of procedural due process, yeah, absolutely. Then it will look into this substantial, because no procedure is given. Because no procedure is given in the law, the law will be questioned.
The nature will be challenged. Nature of the law will be challenged.
Nature of the law will be challenged because the law does not give any procedure. It will be challenged whether the law does not give any procedure which is not fair or just. See, the point is this. When you apply due process, both the law can be challenged and the procedure can be challenged. When you apply procedure established by law, then the limit to challenge is very limited. The scope of challenge is very limited. You cannot see whether the parliament or the legislature should have made that law. the wisdom behind the parliament to make that law will not be questioned. There is a law, yes. And whether the law provides a procedure, yes, that is it. India in 1950 A.K. Gopalan, procedure established by law. In Maneka Gandhi case, 1978, what? Due process of law. Now, the Supreme Court by interpretation has expanded. So, there is a movement from procedure established by law to due process of law. But still, the due process of law is still limited to, in general, limited to procedural. How many laws made by the parliament or the state legislature have been struck down by the courts? Very less or? From 1950. In the last 10 years, how many laws were struck down by the Supreme Court? Laws made by the parliament. How many laws? NJAG was struck down this, right? And after that, very, very less. Unlawful Activity Prevention Act, UAPA, PMLA, NIA. You must have heard that all these laws have some stringent provisions which make what? Bail impossible. The Supreme Court has said, in general criminal law, bail is the norm. Jail is exemption. But the Supreme Court said in UAPA cases, it is otherwise. Jail is the rule and bail is exception. So the safeguard available to citizens' liberty is very much limited. UAPA is 1967. The Supreme Court of India upheld PMLA amendment in 2021. NIA 2008. Amendments done. Still working, huh? Supreme Court does not think so. We'll explain that later. Don't worry. The reason is that Supreme Court believes that these are reasonable restrictions. That is what is happening. That is what is happening. It is beyond the scope of this discussion. You can ask me after the class. Otherwise, this will not get over. But the point I'm trying to make is that the court in this country are limiting themselves to procedural due process and using this procedure established by law. But substantial due process is not being used because ultimately it will violate the delicate balance of separation of power. It will be like entering into the legislative domain. But anyway, there are some occasions where the court should come and use the substantial due process to protect the life and liberty of the people, especially when the laws are being misused. Another point which we want to discuss is constitutionalism means limited government. One essential part of constitutionalism is rule of law. Now, whether constitutionalism can exist in those countries having written constitutions or unwritten constitutions or both. In other words, if it is necessary to have a written constitution to have constitutionalism, what is the nature of India's constitution, written or unwritten? Why written? Codified. When most of the fundamental principles governing a country are written down in a single document, then we call that document as written constitution or a codified constitution. Always remember, whether the constitution is written or unwritten, not all fundamental principles governing that country are written down. There are scope for conventions in written constitution. Have you heard about this word convention? Convention. Conventions are those norms of behavior which must be followed but do not have any legal basis, in the sense that it cannot be legally enforced. In the constitution, if it is written that the President of India should appoint the leader of the largest party, or leader of the party having largest number of seats in Lok Sabha. What does the Constitution say? The President appoints the Prime Minister. Can the President appoint any Prime Minister? Anyone as Prime Minister? Why? Where it is given? Convention. Convention, but it is followed. India's written constitution. Written constitution does not mean everything is written down. There are multiple sources of constitution in the sense that a single document will have most of the fundamental provisions. The courts in India, especially the Supreme Court, has the power to declare law. The Supreme Court, so judge-made laws are part of the constitution. Conventions, so even if it is a written constitution, do not think that everything is written down. No. Similarly, unwritten constitution. What is the meaning of the word? Unwritten constitution. The fundamental principles governing that country are scattered in multiple sources. The sources can be statutes, means laws made by the parliament. The sources can be conventions. Can be conventions, traditions. The sources can be the judge-made laws. But the fundamental issue is this. Constitutionalism means limit on the government. The most important or significant or the most prevalent instrument to limit the power of the government is the Constitution. Fundamental rights. Are the limitation on the power of the state or the government? Yes or no? DPSB? No. Part 3 of the Constitution is a limitation on the power of the government. Your fundamental rights against who? Generally. Against the government, against the state. And the state is very exhaustively, I won't say exhaustively, elaborately defined in Article 12 of the Constitution. Whether Part 3 of the Constitution act as a limitation on the government. So whether Part 3 contributes towards constitutionalism in India? Yes or no? But it is contributing because the Part 3 is written down. There is a provision. There are provisions in the Constitution which limit the power of the government. What about unwritten Constitution? Can there be constitutionalism or limited government in unwritten constitutions? Yes or no? No, why?
Because we are unable to limit the government. As nothing is written down. Parliament is sovereign there.
One of the important elements of constitutionalism is rule of law. Whether rule of law is there in UK, whether rule of law is there in India.
Rule of law is more in UK than in India. So the constitution is better than constitution in India.
No. Why do you think that people are going to Canada and USA large number and they say that we don't want to come back?
Better rule of law.
How many of you be having the urge to walk around at 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. in Delhi? Individually. What is the crime rate in India as per NCRB? In Delhi. The crime rate is acceptable or unacceptable? Unacceptable. Communal riots are happening. Encounter killings are happening. Theft is happening. Crimes against women and children are happening. Terrorists, insurgency, Manipur. Written constitution. UK. what is the extent of encounter killing in UK and India? कहाँ पे ज़्यादा है? India. Does encounter killing means arbitrary exercise of power or not? Very free in India and UK. In Israel, which would have curtailed the power of the Israel judiciary. Which constitution Israel has? Written or unwritten? Huh? Who said unwritten? Who said unwritten? Very good. Yes, unwritten. But the judiciary struck down that provision which would have made the subordinate to the government. The constitution is unwritten. China, what kind of constitution China has? Written constitution. Whether there is constitutionalism in China? No. Saudi Arabia, written constitution. Constitution. Cuba, written. There is no guarantee. And constitutionalism in countries. And constitutionalism. Potential test that should be looked into to find out whether there is constitutionalism in a country is there is limited government. Governmental power is limited. In UK, Parliament is supreme, sovereign. In India, Constitution is supreme. Does that mean Parliament can make any law? It can make any law. There is no limitation on the law-making power of the Parliament. But can the Parliament make a law which will reduce the human rights or the rights of the people? There is a Bill of Rights in England, recently replaced by Bill of Rights 2022. Now, that Bill of Rights provides rights to people, equivalent to fundamental rights. Can the UK Parliament nullify that? Say that we will be reducing the scope of your right. They cannot. Why? People, citizenship, civil society, other organs, opposition. There are other instrumentalities in United Kingdom which limits the power of the government and the Parliament. The legislators, the MPs have independence. There is no anti-defection law in UK. So if a bill is brought to amend or reduce the scope of the rights of the people of UK, even the ruling MPs can oppose it. Inner party democracy, healthy tradition of parliamentary democracy, constructive tension between opposition and the opposition, the participatory civil society, awareness of the citizenry. The whip is there. Whip, the convention, the whip has come from them. Whip is there. Whip is not binding. Whip is not binding. Whip is not binding. As far as this voting is concerned, cross voting happens in UK. Boris, let's say, Prime Minister, this Boris Johnson has to resign. Right? He conducted a party during COVID-19, liquor party. He and his administration told the people not to party, maintain social distancing. But he did what? He partied, violated his own rule, had to resign. Can you see such thing happening in India? Limited government, checks and balances, accountability. Can happen, can exist whether the country has written constitution or unwritten. The nature of constitution is not a guarantee for constitutionalism. Are you able to understand or not? Yes or no? the essential check or the essential test should be whether the government is limited or not. Generally, modern democratic governments are limited government. Whether they have written constitution or unwritten constitution does not matter. Written constitution, non-democratic nations have written constitution, like China, North Korea and others. There is no constitutionalism because there is no limited government. Here we are going to divide the governments into two types. There are two types of government. What are they? Two types of government. Democratic government and non-democratic government. Democratic government can be further divided. How? Parliamentary or presidential. Then representative versus direct. Then monarchy versus republic. Constitutional monarchy versus republic. Then unitary versus federal. Then non-democratic, very easy, authoritarian, dictatorship, autocracy, etc. We are not concerned with that. Democratic government. What is a democratic government? What is the meaning of the word democracy? Okay. Anything else? Democracy means what? Essentially, let's put it this way, ruled by people, something like that. Right? Isn't it? Ruled by people. The real power lies with people. So popular sovereignty is an embodiment or a manifestation of democratic government. Isn't it? Democracy means elected government. Free and fair election, if necessary for democracy or not. Free and fair election is necessary. What else is necessary? Frequent. So frequent, free and fair. Don't say frequent, regular or periodic. One of the major problem is that we have a frequent election, that is a so-called one nation, one election committee being set up. I say, why to have elections? Isn't it? No, the point is that this election is very costly affair. It is putting a lot of economic burden, financial burden on the state. In any case, only one person is going to win. Isn't it? Only one party is going to rule. So let us do away with the election. Critics ask. This is the viewpoint of critics, not me, not mine. Democratic government. Periodic or regular, free and fair election. Necessary? Because it is through election that popular sovereignty or people's sovereignty is manifested. Because the government cannot remain in power until unless elected by the people. So democratic government means ruled by people. People can directly rule or rule through representatives. I had some cold or fever. They started today's morning. So the occasion is auspicious, isn't it? First class and this. Democratic government, election, ruled by people. People can rule directly or indirectly, also known as through representatives. Direct rule is direct democracy. Indirect rule is representative democracy or indirect democracy. What kind of democracy does India follow? Indirect or representative. Why? Because? Okay, because the people, all the people of this country cannot directly participate in decision making, legislation, etc. So, we elect our representative. Isn't it? representative, and they govern for ourselves. So we follow something called representative democracy. But the question is, can the people elect those representatives who will address the needs and concerns of the people? In other words, does the people have the intelligence, the awareness to elect the right representative? The number of MPs having criminal background in the Lok Sabha is around 43%. It is increasing. What does it indicate? Whether the people are choosing right representatives. But the fundamental idea behind rule by people or representative democracy is that people have the intelligence to decide what is good for them. Which candidate, which party, whatever policy, everything is good for them. So democratic government is based on the principle or philosophy of what? Philosophy of intelligence of people. The common person's intelligence is the basis for democracy. Why do you think when India got independence, India gained independence, we adopted something called this universal adult franchise? What does it mean? 18 years, otherwise not disqualified, can vote. And this vote is not based on either caste or religion and other markers. So anybody and everybody, if they are eligible, can vote. Highest, the person having the President of India also can vote. Me and you can also vote. The rickshaw puller and others can also vote, irrespective of your economic consideration, basis, wealth, property, education. You have one vote. One person, one vote, one value. What does it indicate? Even if you are uneducated, even if you are not wealthy, even if you are illiterate, still an adult person, an adult Indian citizen has the ability to decide what is good for him or her. Which means the person will choose their representative intelligently. So democracy is based on the concept of intelligence of common person, ordinary men and women. Are you able to understand what I am trying to say? Parliamentary and presidential, very easy, isn't it? Parliamentary form of government is what? Where the executive comes from? Legislature. Where the executive is responsible to the legislature, then the system of government is parliamentary. When the word executive is used, generally the word is used for government. There can be two types of executive. One type of executive is political executive, another executive is permanent executive. PE and permanent. Permanent means what? You, the administration, or so-called civil services. What is the job of political executive and what is the job of this administration? In general, policy formulation and policy implementation. So political executives are what? Policy makers, decision makers, isn't it? What about this permanent executive? They are decision takers. They can advise. The ultimate decision, political. They are implementers. Now, why do you think that the decision-making authority should be vested with political executive? They are elected. Mandate. Answerable to legislature. Legislature is the mechanism through which people exercise their sovereignty. So in a democracy, power lies with the people. In representative democracy, the elected executives exercise the power on behalf of the people. And the administration in democratic nations works under the control of political executive. In presidential system, the administration works under the control of political executive. But the political executive is not part of legislature. Separation between executive and legislature. A parliamentary form of government provides more responsibility, less stability. Because more responsibility means the legislature can ask questions, motions, etc. Even through passing no confidence motion, remove the government. Responsibility. Because of continuous responsibility, periodic responsibility, stability of the government is questioned. Isn't it? Preferential form, because of the executive does not come from the legislature. Responsibility is very less. Stability is more. Can there be constitutionalism in preferential form of government or parliamentary form of government? Or both? It is necessary. Can we say that there will be constitutionalism in presidential form as well as parliamentary form?
We cannot guarantee that.
Chinese president. President? So there are presidential form of government, there are parliament form of government. The type of government also does not guarantee. Like the type of constitution, the type of democratic government does not guarantee, because there cannot be any constitutionalism in non-democracies. Monarchy and republic, what is the difference? I added something here. Constitutional monarchy.
It is a formal power only.
Very good. Monarchy can be two types. Absolute monarchy constitutional monarchy. Monarchy can be two types. What is monarchy? Monarchy is a system of government where what? Where the head of the state is not elected. Head of the state has a. In other words, monarchy is where unelected in hold positions of power. Monarchy can be two types: absolute monarchy and constitutional monarchy. Absolute monarchy. UK before 1215, Magna Carta. Still Saudi Arabia is absolute monarchy. Because even they are hereditary, but they have the real power. President of India and Prime Minister of India, who has the real power? Who is the real executive power? But both President as well as Prime Minister are elected. One if indirectly, other if directly in the sense that as an MP. But despite being elected, although indirectly, the President of India does not have effective power. In a monarchy, a person is not elected. Person can have effective power or can have ceremonial power. When the head of the is a hereditary monarch but has only ceremonial function, I won't say only ceremonial function, I will say mostly ceremonial function. Mostly ceremonial function. Then such type of monarchy is known as constitutional monarchy, because the power of the monarchy is limited by the constitution, whether written or unwritten. British monarch. Absolute monarch? No. What kind of monarch? Monarch of Netherlands. What kind of monarch? Monarch of Bhutan. Constitutional, recently. Monarch of Nepal. The monarch was abolished in Nepal, isn't it? Monarch of Saudi Arabia. Absolute. So what? China has written constitution?
In which category?
Huh?
Qatar and Iran.
Huh?
In which category? Qatar has parliament also.
Qatar and Iran are different. Iran has a different.
Qatar has parliament and Iran has
Qatar has
election as well as head of the state.
You see, Iran has a different type of system, semi-presidential, something like that. But the point is that can we say there is constitutionalism in Iran? Can women go out without wearing that parda? Why the women and others are protesting in Iran? For human rights, fundamental rights, freedom. Right? From 1979, Islamic Revolution in Iran, the state became powerful. The rights of citizens have been curtailed. Qatar is a monarchy. Monarchy will have parliament system. That's not. But the point is that what kind of law are being administered? Whether the people are electing the representative through what? UAF. Whether the election is free and fair. All these things have to be seen. There is election in China. Whether it's free and fair? No. Bangladesh has election. So we can say that if we have proof, then we can say that free and fair election is not happening in Bangladesh. The point is this. Constitutionalism can happen in where? Constitutional monarchy, not in absolute monarchy. Written constitution is not a guarantee. Unwritten constitution is not a guarantee. Type of government not a guarantee. Parliament not a guarantee. President not a guarantee. What guarantee is that checks and balances are limitation. Generally, these limitations are found in constitution, written constitution. But written constitution do not guarantee limitation. Unwritten constitution can also have constitutionalism.
Can we say civil society guarantee active civil society?
Presence of active civil society can promote constitutionalism. Polity is law, state, every word is important. Even those column, comma, and, or, these are important. In questions, important. Only problem. An active civil society can guarantee. No. What is active civil society? What is the meaning of it? The point is that there is no guarantee. Is there a proof? We can say active civil society can promote constitutionalism because it can act as a check on the unlimited power of the government. Right? Like let's say when Israel government or parliament tried to bring this law, the civil society came. The middle class so-called, they came out in the street and protested.
Therefore, in Britain, active society is a part of their resistance to the government.
The emergence of civil society, you are taking me away from the topic, but again, I don't have any problem. If you are able to sit here, not a problem. I'll have answers for all your questions. The emergence of civil society, as we know today, came in 1980s, when the people came onto the street against the totalitarian tendencies, authoritarian approaches of governments in Eastern Europe, including Czech Republic. Now Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia. Civil society emerged as a democratizing force, a force which demanded accountability from the government, which made the government more democratic. Right? So democracy and civil society are what? Interlinked. That is the emergence. But just because civil society is present, does not guarantee constitutionalism. There is no guarantee for constitutionalism. If there is limited government, then we can say yes, there is constitutionalism. But to bring limited government, how can we bring limited government? How? By following the elements of constitutionalism, rule of law, independent media, judiciary, separation of power, etc., etc. Generally, in democratic governments, written constitutions are a check against the absolute power of the government. Because in democracies, written constitution limit the power of the government. Because the limitation of the power of the government is detailed, written down, mentioned clearly. And where? Constitution. Part 3 of the Constitution, one example I am giving you. But every written constitution does not guarantee what? Constitutionalism. Republic. Republic is what? Head of the state is elected, whether directly or indirectly, irrespective of your caste, class, religion, etc. You can try to become the president, head of the state. Public offices are also what? Open to all. Whether republican form of government or whether having only the word republic in the name of the country, guarantee constitutionalism. Give me 1 minute. You think over it. Whether countries having republic in their name, can we say that there is constitutionalism? Huh? Why?
So you said in the name of the country.
Eh?
So you said that the country has a republic in their name.
Ah.
No, sir, that does not guarantee anything.
People's Republic of China, Republic. DPRK, Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Democracy is there, Republic is there. Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, if a country has a republican form of government, does it necessarily guarantee there will be constitutionalism? No. Yes or no? Just because people are electing a person as the head of the state does not guarantee there will be constitutionalism. Can we say that whenever there will be constitutionalism in all constitutional monarchies? Can we say that there will be constitutionalism in all constitutional monarchies? Why? The monarch's power might be restricted, but the prime minister or some other body's power will be absolute. Can be. Sorry? It can be, but there is no guarantee. Point is that there is no cause-effect relationship. Unitary and federal, very easy. Unitary government. A system of government or a form of government where one central authority or one central government has all the power. So, absence of a second level of relatively sovereign government is what? A unitary government. A federal government is one where at least two levels of relatively sovereign governments are present. Federalism means distribution of power. A federal form of government means a governmental system where the power is divided between at least two levels of government. A unitary system of government is one where the power of the state or the governmental power is concentrated in only one level of government. Generally we call the national government or the federal government or the central government. India is what? Federal or unitary? Federal. UK is what? Federal or unitary? Unitary. Let me ask you one thing. In which type of government you will have more scope for decentralization of power? Are you saying that there cannot be scope for decentralization in unitary form of government? Where is more decentralization, in India or UK? Theoretically, structurally, as per the constitution. I'll just give you. I'll just ask you one question. Who is the mayor of London? You know the mayor of London. You have heard about the mayor of London, right? Whether you know his name or not, or her name, does not matter. Mayor of London. You must have seen multiple Hollywood movies. Also, where the position of mayor is very important. Under the mayor, the superintendent, the police head of the district, the attorney, and various other functionaries, work under, subordinate to that mayor. Does the position of mayor indicate decentralization or centralization? Decentralization. What is the authority of mayor in India?
Like in union, president, state governor, and district mayor.
In India. What happened in Chandigarh? Have you seen? You must have seen what happened in Chandigarh. He's looking at the camera and doing it. You see, does the mayor in Indian cities in general have any real power? No. Mayor is a ceremonial position in general in India. Who is having the power? Municipal commissioner. Appointee of the who? State government. In Indian district, whether district collector has more power or the mayor or the panchayat head of the district panchayat, who's having more power? District collector. Where is the more decentralization? The form of government does not guarantee. But in general, there is more scope for what? Decentralized government, distribution of power, division of power, deconcentration of power in federal system. It's true that the powers of the local bodies are given by the central government or the parliament. But they have more power than those local bodies in India, even after having constitutional recognition. India has local body which are constitutionally sanctioned. The local bodies in India have more power, authority, functions, or the local bodies in UK. But they do not have a constitutionally assigned tier. The states in India. In India is federal, there are states. But the point is that states, most of the time, the states complain that the union is encroaching. ED, CBI. Just having a federal structure does not guarantee division of power, distribution of power, deconcentration, decentralization. Similarly, just having a unitary system also do not mean that every power is concentrated in the central government. No. Can there be constitutionalism in federal government? Can there be constitutionalism in unitary form of government? They can be. Can is the word. There can be. UK unitary? New Zealand, which kind of government? Federal or unitary? Unitary. What kind of government? Parliamentary or presidential? Parliamentary. What kind of constitution? Written or unwritten? Unwritten. Constitutionalism? Relatively higher. Okay? Can you recall what all we studied? We started with state. We then studied sovereignty. We studied popular sovereignty. We studied government, various types. Isn't it? We studied political executive, permanent executive, their functions. Then we studied constitutionalism. Then we studied some elements of constitutionalism, especially rule of law. Then we studied other related concepts, due process of law, procedure established by law, equality before law, natural justice, Then what? Procedural due process, substantial due process, types of government. We also studied democratic, direct democracy, indirect democracy, representative democracy. We understood the philosophy behind giving the power to people to elect their representatives. The intelligence of ordinary men and women. Yes or no? Now, there is a term called constitutional government. What is this constitutional government? A constitutional government is one whose power is limited. Whose power is limited. By a constitution, the constitution can be written or unwritten. Can we say that in a constitutional government, there can be constitutionalism? In a constitutional government, there can be constitutionalism, yes or no? A constitutional government can uphold constitutionalism. Can uphold, why not? We are not saying will uphold always. We can see constitutionalism in constitutional government, yes or no? Can. Yes or no? A democratic government can have constitutionalism, yes or no? A democratic government can constitutional government, yes or no? A constitutional government can be a democratic government, yes or no? Yes or no? Can we see rule of law in democratic government? Can we see rule of law in constitutional government? Can we see rule of law in republican form of government? Yes. If I say limited sovereignty can lead to constitutionalism, yes or no? Limited sovereignty can lead to constitutionalism, yes or no? Yes? Yes or no? What else is left? No, before that, there are a few other things. Few other things are there. Let me see. Magna Carta, everything you've done. Gandhian state communism, authority above law, anything else? Important things. Let me ask you this question. Can fundamental rights under Article 3 promote constitutionalism in India? Can Part 3 leads to constitutional government in India? Can we say Part 3 is a manifestation of limited government in India? Part 3 manifests constitutionalism in India? Proper implementation of Part 3 can bring limited government in India? Yes. So Part 3 deals with what? Fundamental rights. Fundamental rights? What are fundamental rights? That we will study tomorrow. But before that, let us understand this term, rights. What are rights? Claims against what? Only state? Opportunities. Okay, fine. Anything else? Rights are conditions required for proper development of individual personality. Rights are imperatives for having a limited government. So I am trying to give different types of, let's say, I am trying to explain from different point of view, through different dimensions. Rights are necessity, imperative or necessary for having a limited government. Rights are demands made by individual on society and state. Rights are demands made by individuals on society and state. Rights of citizens are generally the duties of society and state. rights are the duties of the state. I mean, let's put it this way. The rights of citizens are the duties of the state in general. Rights are two types: horizontal rights and vertical rights. When the rights are claimed or demanded against the state, then vertical right. Very nice. When the rights are claimed or demanded against private sector or non-state, let's use the word non-state, then the rights are horizontal rights.
State or non-state being horizontal. I think both.
No. Horizontal mean non-state. Private sector, the civil society and others, non-state. Private citizen, untouchability, Article 17. Give an example. Article 17, untouchability, abolition. Is it available only against the state or private citizens? Both. So Article 17 is both horizontal as well as vertical. Isn't it? Generally, rights are vertical rights against the state. But there are many rights which are available against the private citizens also. We'll see that tomorrow. But there are multiple other types of rights. Rights are classified in different manner. What are they? Fundamental rights, legal rights. No, fundamental rights, constitutional rights. Then legal or statutory right. Then human rights. Then natural rights. Then civil, political, economic, etc., etc. Then moral rights. If you know all of this, then I will not explain. If you do not know, then I will explain. How many of you know? Don't worry, I'll explain, don't worry. Fundamental rights in the Indian context. Those rights available in Part 3 of the Constitution are fundamental rights. Those rights which are available in the Constitution, but not in Part 3. Those rights available to persons which are given in the Constitution, apart from Part 3, is constitutional right. Absolutely not. Fundamental rights are rights available in Part 3. Just because Part 3 is in the Constitution does not mean fundamental rights are constitutional rights. No. When you this is the Constitution. This is fundamental right, Part 3. Minus what is left is here. Constitutional right. Right to vote and get elected. What kind of right is that? Right to vote and get elected. As for UPSC, which right? Constitutional right. Right to vote only. Statutory right or legal right. When the right is given by a law or a statute, statute means law made by the legislature, can be state legislature or the parliament. When a law provides you right, then the law is statutory right or legal right. NFSA, National Food Security Act, provides right to food. NREGA, right to property. I'll explain that. Human right. What is human right? Very good. The rights which are available to individuals just by virtue of being human. So human rights, let me ask you one question. Which is having more scope of application, human rights or fundamental right? Why human rights? Huh? Human rights do not limit itself to territory. Human rights are not state-centric. Universal. UDHR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So human rights are what? Universal? In theory, should be. Human rights do not limit itself to territoriality. Right to property is what? Both constitutional as well as legal as well as human. 3. Right to property is human right. Supreme Court has interpreted human right, constitutional and legal. All 3. पूछेगा नहीं, don't worry. Both. I mean all 3. Legal, constitutional as well as human. Natural right. What is natural right? What are natural rights? That is natural justice, different.
Having exclusive control over your own bodily function.
This natural means nature. The rights which are available to individuals in pre-state. देखो, you know state. I'll give you an explanation. Thomas Hobbes, when he saw the large-scale violence in UK and other nations, he decided that there should be an absolute authority which will control the violence, which will protect the rights for people. He invented something called a leviathan, a state which will have ultimate power over the people. Right? He said that individual did not have any rights in what? Pre-state system. Pre-state system was known as state of nature. In state of nature, everybody fought against each other. War of all against all. Right? No rights. Because might was right. You can have right only when there should be a person or a body which will enforce it. But no enforcing authority. So there should be an enforcing authority, which Hobbes called state. And state became all powerful. Individuals did not have any right. State came, state provided rights to people. So in the state of nature, everybody was fighting against each other. According to Hobbes, people did not have any rights. But John Locke, when he, through his thought experiment, analyzed this so-called social contract, he said, even in the state of nature, that is pre-state society, individuals had 3 important rights. Right to life, liberty and property. 3 inalienable rights people enjoyed. What the state did, state only enforced those rights, not invented those rights. Those rights are natural rights. Okay?
So then what is the difference between human rights and natural rights?
2 things. Human rights are modern phenomena. Number 1. Because human rights, the concept of human rights came in 1948. As per the UN. The scope of human rights is very high. Do you think that natural rights, life, liberty and property, the scope of human rights is only limited to these 3? No. But we can see a connection between natural right and human right. We can say that human rights, the conception of human rights is a modern version of the so-called natural rights. Because the fundamental idea behind natural right is human, the person has rights. Life, liberty and property. So it is universal, not temporal. Temporal means what? Limited to time? No. Going, available, always. So the government or the state cannot take away human right, even if a prisoner has human right. A serial killer, a terrorist has human right. Even war prisoners of war have human rights. So the application, scope, interpretation, implementation, of human rights is very high. But the roots of human rights can be seen in the conceptualization of natural rights. Okay? Civil right, right to speech, freedom of expression, movement, residence, all those civil, political right, contest election, run, vote, right to form association, political party can say, or the political association can be civil rights also, because it comes from Article 19(1)(c), economic right, the ability to carry out economic activities, profession, all those things. Moral right. Moral rights are rights which are based on the ethical feelings of individuals and society. Moral feelings, moral right. A teacher has a moral right to expect respect from students. A parent has a moral right to expect that the children will obey. Moral right, the right which is based on the ethical feeling of society or individuals. The sense of right or wrong of individual or the society will decide whether the rights are available to me or you or not. Moral rights cannot be enforced. Moral rights are not created by any statute or any constitution or any court. The very sense of right or wrong or morality is the basis of moral rights. Right? We started with state. We understood various aspects of state. But another important aspect of state has to be understood. That is the role of state in economy. Depending upon the nature or the extent of the role of state in economic system of a country, states are divided into three major categories. What are they? Very easy. Capitalistic state or capitalism, socialism or communism. Where the state or the government for that matter has what? Minimal interference or intervention in economic system, then the state follows what is known as a capitalistic system. So it's better to use this word, capitalistic system, because there cannot be a capitalist state per se. There can be socialist state. Can there be communist state? Very good. So in capitalism is based on the idea or ideology. What is that? Minimal state intervention, also known as laissez-faire. No intervention. So here the state will be minimum or minimalist state. Minimalist state. Capitalistic system is based on the ideology of liberalism. What is liberalism? Liberalism means individual freedom. Individual freedom. Liberalism can be political liberalism or economic liberalism, not or and. Economic liberalism is capitalism. Political liberalism can lead to what? If I say political liberalism can lead to constitutionalism. Yes or no? Political liberalism means individuals should have freedom. Government should be limited. Government should not intervene unnecessarily into the private life of individuals. More human rights, more fundamental rights. So political liberalism will lead to limited government or not? Yes? So political liberalism can lead to constitutionalism. That is why the liberal thinkers, this Locke and Rousseau and others, all these people were liberal thinkers, the Mill and others, there are multiple. Bentham. All these are what? Liberal thinkers. Liberalism can be economic capitalism, political liberalism, constitutional government. Political liberalism can lead to democratic government. Yes or no? When there is more political liberalism, there will be more democracy. Yes or no? Liberalism. Capitalism. Private property. What is the extent of private property in capitalism? Maximum private property. Because if I work, whatever I get, it's mine. No distribution. State tax rate very less. Property is mine. So private property. Yes, you can see highest. This USA, most of the millionaires, billionaires, rich people are there. So whatever production is there, which are under their control through their labor, it's theirs. State role is very limited. Distribution is very limited. So whatever I make, it's mine. Private property. Concentration of wealth. Will it happen or not? Yes. Means of production, MOP. Means of production means what? Labor, land, capital, technology. Who will have? Controlled by the people who have the resources. So means of production is concentrated in few hands. Possible? Fine. What is the nature of relation between capital and labor in capitalism? According to capitalist school of thought, there is harmonious relation between capital and labor. Harmonious relation. So there is harmony between capitalistic class, the owners and the workers. The person having the person who is controlling the means of production, or the owner, and the workers and laborers, harmonious. The interest of the capital class, the owners and the workers are not conflictual. Their interests are what? Similar. So there is no need for what? Trade unionism, collective bargaining, strike, demonstration. No need. Why? Harmonious relation. Vended. Planning. What is the nature of planning here? Can there be centralized planning? No centralized planning. Yes or no? Because the market will decide. Invisible hands of the market of demand and supply will decide what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce. So there is no centralized planning. Come here. Socialism. Remember, socialism, although the word socialism essentially means what? Huh? No. The essential principle behind socialism is collectivity. Not individual, but collective, community. That is why the seeds of socialism we can see in the writing of Plato and others. But in modern period we can see the modern socialism in the works or practices of some thinkers. You just hear it, no need to remember, etc. You must have heard about Robert Owen, Charles Fourier, Saint-Simon. These individuals adopted the socialistic approach because they were writing or developing their idea in the context of what? Industrial revolution. This industrial revolution resulted into unequal society, concentration of wealth, exploitative situation for the laborers. So in order to address these concerns, these individuals decided that there should be community, for an individual to community, collectivity, distribution, etc., etc., etc. But it was Karl Marx, who brought his brand of socialism, known as scientific socialism. Marx called these individuals, this Simon and others, who advocated something called evolutionary socialism. Gradually, things would change. Marx called their socialism as utopian socialism. He advocated something called scientific socialism. That scientific socialism is also known as communism. Socialism means what? What is the role of state in socialism? Maximum state intervention. Who will control the means of production? State will control. Can there be private property? Yes, there will be, very limited. Yes, there will be private property. Personal belongings and others, limited level of private property, yes. Very limited. Concentration of wealth, distribution of wealth. Welfare. What is the nature of welfare in capitalism? Welfare will demand state intervention, taxation, controlling. So less scope for welfare in theory. In theory, less scope. During COVID-19, almost every individual in America unemployed individuals got $600 per week during COVID-19 period. How many of you got 500 rupees women Jan Dhan Yojana? Although you got food and others. But point I'm trying to say this. Capitalist societies are more socialistic in general. Because the inequality which we see are compared in UK and others, Scandinavian nations, let's say, this Norway, Sweden, Denmark and others. Capitalistic, but the oppression is more socialistic, less inequality, more social service, education, health. Anyway, but in theory, less scope for welfare because it will lead to state intervention, nationalization, reducing economic freedom. PSU, let's say, the government says we will take care of economic activity. So it will reduce the scope, will it? और क्या है? Means of production, state will own. State. What is the relation between capital and labor? Socialism understands or acknowledges that there is problem or conflict between these two, but they advocate an evolutionary approach to address. Evolutionary approach to addressing the problem between capital and labor. क्या evolutionary? Centralized planning. Absolutely. Centralized planning is a feature of socialist. There is another variant of socialism known as Fabian socialism. What is Fabian socialism? Sorry. Fabian socialism came from the word from the Fabian society established in 1884. Don't worry. Last decades of 19th century by George Bernard Shaw and others in England. They wanted to establish a democratic socialist state in England. Democratic socialist state through an evolutionary approach. Redistribution, better taxation, etc. Fabian socialism. Word Fabian. Who was this Fabian? Fabian Maximus was a Roman general at the heydays of Roman Empire. This general won large number of wars. How? Not attacking, but by what? Developing or carrying out patient strategies. Slowly. This individual won lot of war. How? By using patience, by wearing out the enemy, by buying time. So essentially, he used an evolutionary method, gradual approach to win war. So Fabian socialism wants what? Fabian socialism wants an evolutionary, gradual approach for socialism. The Fabian comes from that word, Fabian socialism. Communism. State hoga nahi hoga. Communism advocates withering away of state, dismantling of state. Communism came from the writings of Marx and later, after his death, Engels and others. There are multiple variants of communism. Maoism, Leninism, Stalinism, etc. Don't worry about that. Communism, no state.
So will that lead to anarchy? So anarchy is also a form of communism?
We'll deal with anarchy later. Don't worry. Are you saying that if there is no state, there can be anarchy? We will also deal with Gandhi after some time. Then you will get the answer. No state. According to Marx or the others, the state is what? State is the instrument through which the workers and others are exploited. State is the instrument of the bourgeoisie. Use the word bourgeoisie. The bourgeoisie word essentially means the capitalist class, the people who are owning the means of production others, the bourgeoisie. State represents the government, the agencies, all these represent the interest of the bourgeoisie. What is the interest of the bourgeoisie? To maintain the status quo, to have control over the means of production, to maintain their wealth and private property. So state helps the bourgeoisie to maintain their privileged position. So whenever the labor tries to raise their voice, state uses something called law and order and suppresses that movement. State, the bureaucracy, the administration, field service, the courts, everything. What? Is for who? The bourgeoisie. For what? Private property, wealth. Marx uses the idea of dialectical materialism in order to reach his theory. The essence of communism of Marx is dialectical materialism. Because communism of Marx is based on something known as conflict perspective. Conflict. Dialectic. Dialectic means what? Opposing ideas. Opposing parties. Those two parties or two events or two things, two ideas whose interest cannot be reconciled. Always in conflict. Who are in conflict? The laborers and the bourgeoisie. Their relations are struggling, conflictual. There is class struggle in society, in the state. So the relation between the bourgeoisie and the workers is conflictual. Always conflictual, always dialectical. For what? What is the reason for this dialectic? Material reasons. What is the material reason? Economic control, private property, wealth, production. These people want to control everything. Whatever is produced, they control it. They take. They don't have anything. Very less. The fruits of the production is shared, very less amount. Only for subsistence. So that the workers can come tomorrow for work. That is it. No actual sharing. No equality. Unequal system. Marx says the only approach, the only way, or the best way, not best way, the only way to address this situation, to remove this anomaly, dismantle this exploitative structure is to what? Is through revolution, through violence. Violently we should overthrow the bourgeoisie and the state. Violent overthrow of state through revolutionary method, through violence. Why? The interest of the capitalist, the bourgeoisie and the working class are irreconcilable. The only way the workers can get their legitimate due, or the only way there will be equality in society. Because economic control, means of production, is the reason for inequality. So there can be equality in society only when the state is dismantled, the bourgeoisie system is dismantled. Withering away of state. Through revolution, through violence, the workers will establish something known as dictatorship of the proletariat. Proletariat means what? Workers. After dismantling the state control, after dismantling the state, I mean those people who are running the state, the bourgeoisie and others, the workers will control the government. This is known as dictatorship of the proletariat. This is also this is an intermediate stage in communism known as socialism. Socialism from Marxian point of view is an intermediate stage in communism. But the point is that dictatorship of proletariat will not remain for long. Because one type of state, the bourgeoisie state, is replaced by proletariat state. Inequality will remain. So it is necessary to dismantle. The proletariat state will be dismantled. There will be withering away of the state. No bureaucracy, traditional sense. No government. There will be communes or communities. Ironically, no state right from Marx has reached the level of communism. Because whenever the proletariat got the taste of power, they wanted to perpetuate it. Right? The only thing is that they replaced one set of exploitators with another set of exploitators. There is a book known as Animal Farm. You can read that. Right? There is another book, 1984, George Orwell. Whenever you get free time, you can read. You understand what I am trying to say. But anyway, no state. Private property? No. No private property. Wealth confederation? No wealth. Individual wealth. There will be collective wealth. The commune will own. No individual wealth. No private property. Who will control means of production? Collective control of means of production. Will there be centralized planning? There will be decentralized planning. The community will plan. Is there a need for welfare in communism? Why? Everyone is equal and everybody is controlling everything. There is no need for welfare. Isn't it? Anything else? MOP, wealth, maximum, state, illusion. Another last thing. Gandhian conception of state is important. Gandhian conception of state. Can you tell me whether Gandhi supported closed economy? Vijayalal. Closed economy where? Socialism. Okay, there are this democratic socialism or known as Nehruvian socialism or something called mixed economy. Generally, the traditional socialism, what happens is that the state will have larger control on the economy. And if at all there is private sector, very limited role. But in Indian system, right from independence, if you see, although the system has changed of late, although the country was socialist word is not there, the socialist word was not there, but still the underlying philosophy of the constitution is welfare state, so socialism. But the problem with the socialism is that generally a socialist type of economy, in socialist type of economy you will find a socialist government. Generally, socialist system of economy, you will find one-party government. Less liberalistic government. Authoritarian system. China. Erstwhile this, USSR. Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. Socialist. But one party. Generally, socialistic economic systems will have non-democratic governments. Illiberal governments. Because the state will be controlled by one party. So democracy has less scope in socialism. But India is a democracy. So we could not have adopted this traditional, classical socialism. That is why we adopted something called democratic socialism. Democracy is the means through which we will attain socialism. A liberal democratic system will be molded to attain the objective of socialism. There will be greater presence of state and the government, but still there are adequate scope given to the private sector. So, presence of both state-controlled economic system and a more or less participative private sector, mixed economic system. Right? Also known as Nehruvian socialism, you can see. Democracy. The problem with the socialist system is that generally they are non-democratic. So India, because of a democratic country, could not have adopted the classical socialism. Gandhian state. Gandhi said, what? According to Gandhi, state represents organized violence. Gandhi did not like state. According to Gandhi, state is the manifestation of violence, organized form of violence. Hence, Gandhi wanted the state to be abolished. Gandhian idea was non-violence. So wherever there is violence, he would have opposed. So Gandhi says, state is violent. Why? Because the state undermines the freedom of individuals. Gandhi's concept of autonomous man. Gandhi kept individuals at the center of everything. Gandhi was a liberal. Individual freedom. Gandhi wanted people's freedom should be safeguarded. But the state controls, limits the freedom of individuals. So when freedom of individuals are limited, controlled, individual cannot grow, cannot develop. Individual will not have autonomy. And most of the individual freedoms are violated because by the state. State has no place in Gandhian conception of state. Gandhi advocates something known as a non-state polity. Non-state polity. But how does Gandhi want to dismantle state? Through violence? No. Through non-violence. Through non-violence, he wants to dismantle the state structure. But he wanted the state should be dismantled. Because state is an instrument of violence. Because of the violence, the individual freedoms are undermined, violated. This is against something known as autonomous man, the self-independent individual person. Gandhi also wanted decentralization of government. You know this oceanic circle hypothesis, which means the power of the country will be forced from a bottom to up approach. The decentralized village republic, self-governed village republic will be autonomous. At the center there will be individuals. Individual, village republic, taluka, district, state and nation. Power will flow like this, not this way. A bottom up approach to government. Decentralized government. There will be government. Independent, self-governed republic. But not the state as we know. No centralized state. A decentralized scheme of governance. Gandhi also talked about economic system. He developed a concept of trusteeship. What does it mean? Trusteeship is a middle path between capitalism and socialism. Why? In capitalism, large accumulation of private property and wealth. Socialism, very less. Very limited. So Gandhi found out a middle path. Trusteeship means what? Trusteeship means the individual can keep the fruits of his labor or production in order to lead a moderately comfortable life. MCL, moderately comfortable life. Rest, he or she has to use for public benefit. Moderately comfortable life, better than socialism. Trusteeship. Are you able to understand or not?
So, Gandhian state cannot lead to feudalism?
How?
So, in decentralized system, in every village, there is one feudal lord.
Who said there will be feudal lord? These are democratic republic self.
If there is not centralized authority, then chances is higher, sir.
Chances are there. Gandhi says, if something is possible in theory, then it is possible in practice also. Which means if it is possible to develop such a concept here, then it can be applied. Here there is a democratic system, an independent government, independent self-governing republic is there. Who will elect their representative? How there can be scope for feudalism?
When there is no police, then there is chances of
Who said there will not be government or administration, etc.? There will be, whatever is required. There will be. But the point is that there will be elected government. Self-governing village republic is the idea. Self-governing village republic. Through election. They will control. Right? I'm going to that. Gandhi's conception of state can also be explained or let's say termed as something known as organized anarchy. When there is no state, statelessness means anarchy. When there is no state, there will not be any law and order, nobody to enforce. So, again the state of nature, or of all against all. But Gandhi's statelessness does not mean there will be anarchy. He called something called enlightened anarchy. Anarchy means no state, but it is enlightened because everybody will know what is their role, what has to be done. There will be local level republic government. No federal state is there. Enlightened anarchy, organized anarchy. Similarly, in communism, although there is withering away of state, there is that commune level system. There are technocracy. There are multiple other structures which will exist. But also these things are in theory. You see, we cannot see what is, let's say, these things have not happened. But in theory, this is how they have presented it. Gandhi's conception of statelessness does not lead to anarchy. Because there are existing this structure. That is why Gandhi's concept of state is organized anarchy or enlightened anarchy. ठीक है? How many of you are here? Time? 7:45. Online students, you have the PDF with you. We are going to solve some questions here. After that, you can go. How many of you? 4, 3. I wanted you to solve here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll solve together, right? Question number 1. Wait. Online students, we are going to solve the questions here. We are going to solve previous year's questions, 2023, the latest, then some others, right? In essence, what does due process of law mean? What is the answer? What is the answer? Why not principle of natural justice? Huh? It is not the essence of due process. What is the essence? Fairness is the essence. PL, very easy, not because these two are concept different. Fair application of law, equality before law. We all know that equality before law is different than this. Answer is fair application of law. In essence, due process means fairness. The word is important, essence. Right? In essence, fundamentally, fairness, fair application, just application. That is why answer is fair application of law. Principle of natural justice is only one component, that two. But the scope of this due process is very high. So look for keyword in here, fairness. Right? Answer is C. Which order of the following statement best reflects the chief purpose of the Constitution? Isn't it? Very easy. Chief purpose. Constitution has multiple purpose. It provides structure of the government. Right? Organs of the state. When I am saying word organs of the state, 3 organs of the state, executive, legislature and judiciary. Right? It also delineates powers between the levels of government. Multiple. But the chief purpose, essential purpose, most important is limits the power of government. Whether the question is limited, unwritten or written, limits, chief purpose. Right? Any doubt? Other PYQs. Tell me. Liberty. Acha, this thing I have missed. Liberty. What is the meaning of liberty? Absence of unreasonable restraint, not restraint. Unreasonable. That's okay. Answer is that. But the point is that liberty is absence of unreasonable restraint. Absence of restraint will mean what? Unlimited liberty. As the government is limited, your rights are also limited. You cannot have absolute right. There cannot be any absolute liberty. Fundamental rights are not absolute. Restricted, isn't it? Similarly, your liberty is also restricted. So, liberty is absence of unreasonable restraint. Unreasonable. Whether restraint, the limitation is reasonable or not, the court will decide. Reasonableness. Absence of unreasonable restraint. Equality. What is the meaning? Absence of unreasonable discrimination. Equality is absence of unreasonable discrimination. Equality provides for discrimination. We'll see that tomorrow. Right. Equal protection of law. We'll see that. How? So equality essentially provides for discrimination, but discrimination should be valid, reasonable. Reasonable classification. Reasonable discrimination. Positive discrimination. Isn't it? Liberty, equality, fraternity means what? Brotherhood or sisterhood. Whatever hood is in humans. The feeling of brotherly and sisterly feeling, fraternity. Fraternity preamble. Fraternity means what? The feeling of togetherness. Feeling of camaraderie, friendliness. Fraternity. When there is more division in society, there will be less fraternity. More conflict, less fraternity. Liberty, very easy. You see, absence of restraint, incorrect statement, incorrect. Opportunity, whatever one likes. Opportunity to develop oneself fully is the answer. Why A is not the answer? Tyranny of the political rulers. Because your liberty can be restricted or let's say violated by the administration, private people. Isn't it? So it is not political only. The best acts as the most appropriate. We accept as D as the most appropriate. Which one of the following reflects the most appropriate relationship between law and liberty? Locke. John Locke said, when there is law, there is liberty. Without liberty, law, where there is no liberty. Law will, you see, why do you think that in state of nature, the liberty was not protected by liberty was not protected? Because there was no law. Your liberty will be protected only when there is law. If somebody kidnaps you, the police can come because there is a law. Crime is limited because there is a law, punishment, freedom. Fear of punishment is there, isn't it? Liberty of individual will be protected only when there is law. Without law, liberty cannot be enforced. Liberty cannot be protected, promoted, enforced. Liberty will remain only in those systems where there is law. John Locke. If there are more laws, there is less liberty. Is it so? Not necessary. Most appropriate. If there are no laws, there is no liberty. Yes or no? Yes. If there are no laws, there is no liberty. It's a difficult question, I know, because the context is not given. They have taken it from the Lockean conception. Fine, some question will be there. Leave it, don't worry. Keep in mind, no need to write 15, attempt all 15. Some question should be left. And there are 4 1. It is not both one and 2 kind of thing. The probability is very less to get it correct. Only 25%. If you are able to eliminate something, then the probability will be higher. If you are able to eliminate 2, then the probability is 50%. If you are not able to eliminate anything, then the probability is very less, 25%, which means the possibility of getting a negative mark is higher. Okay. One of the indications of equality in society is absence of privilege. Remember, the equality before law, rule of law. Privileges. But the option should be seen in this. Answer should be seen in the option. You may have, let's say, difference of opinion. Because privilege is there. The governor has privilege. All those people have, there are exceptions to equality. But your option should be, answer should be in this context. Isn't it? Next. In the context of India, which one of the following is the correct relation between rights and duties? Right? What is the meaning of correlative? Interlinked. Complementary. You see, the question is duties and rights. They did not use fundamental rights and fundamental duties. We'll study that, fundamental rights, fundamental duty later. Simply used rights and duties. Because you will have fundamental rights even if you do not carry out or fulfill the fundamental duties. Anyway, whatever that might be. My point, as far as this is concerned, duties and rights are correlative. If I follow my duty, then your rights will be safeguarded. If everyone carry out their duties, then there will be automatic presence of rights. A pedestrian has a right to walk on the road when there is, let's say, a traffic signal is there. So it is my duty to obey the traffic signal. My obeying the traffic signal will allow that person to exercise his right or her right. Getting or not? Duties and right. 4. The mind of the makers are preamble. You see preamble, this is also part, preamble is very easy. Few things I will explain about preamble. See, the preamble is known as, you read that, this Lakshmikant should be read, right? Preamble. The preamble is known as what? Horoscope, identity card, keystone, etc., etc. But one important thing which I want to explain about preamble is that whether the preamble is part of the constitution, whether the preamble is amendable, what is the legal status of preamble? In Berubari case 1960, the Supreme Court of India said the preamble is not part of the constitution. In Keshwan Dabardi 1970, the Supreme Court said preamble is a part of the constitution, preamble can be amended, right? Provided the amendment do not violate the basic structure which are given in the preamble. Basic structure doctrine emanated from what is known as, in general, from the preamble. Now, can the preamble be amended? Yes. How it can be amended? It can be amended as per the provisions in Article 358 of the Constitution. Has it been amended? Once amended. Through 42nd Amendment Act 1976. Three words added: socialist, secular and integrity. Isn't it? There is a case which is going on in Supreme Court regarding the amendment. Some individual says that whatever that might be regarding this amendment, right? This case is going on. A private member bill. Okay. Can the preamble be amended through a private member bill?
Yes.
How?
Because it is a constitutional amendment.
Can a private member bring a constitutional amendment bill?
Yes.
How do you know?
Sir, it is similar to a normal bill which located.
Can a private member bring money bill? Here you are wrong. Yes. हाँ आया था ना, मैंने ही बनाया था, मैंने ही पढ़ाया था. Yes. Tucker as well as this Tucker, I don't know. I think this is this All India this pre-mock test वाला, उसमें आया था. Definitely. But anyway, a private member can amend the constitution. Preamble is a part of the constitution, can be amended. But amendment should be subject to basic structure. Isn't it? Yes. Now, what is the legal validity or what is the status of preamble? The preamble is neither a limitation nor as, no, I won't say limitation, it is limitation per se. The preamble is not a source of authority on the state. Generally, the preamble is not a limitation on the state. The preamble's significance lies in this fact that preamble helps in interpretation of the constitution. Whenever there are conflicting provisions in the constitution, whenever a provision opens to multiple interpretation, conflict, or in order to interpret the provisions of the constitution harmoniously and otherwise, the court can use the preamble as a help. So preamble helps in interpretation. Preamble works as an aid to interpretation. Preamble cannot be used to interpret the constitution. Whenever there is it can only be done when there is conflict in provisions of the constitution. Then you use preamble. It cannot be done otherwise. Preamble cannot be used to interpret the constitution. It means that there should be some issues, conflict within the provisions of the constitution. Then you can use that as a help. Preamble does not have independent independent status, in the sense that the court cannot use preamble independently as a standalone matter to interpret the constitution. It cannot. What it can do is, it can help it. It can use the help of preamble, provided there is a case, there is an issue which requires interpretation. and that interpretation which suits to the philosophy, objectives of the preamble, like equality, whatever that might be, then the court can uphold that interpretation, which what? Which is in alignment with the objectives of the preamble. Whether the preamble is a limitation on the amending power of the parliament? Yes. To the extent that those amendment, to the extent that that amendment does not violate those basic features as mentioned in the preamble, parliament can amend. The basic structure doctrine acts as a check on the amending power of the parliament. Yes or no? So is there any limitation on the amending power of the parliament with respect to preamble? Yes. I know that you have not studied this anywhere. Isn't it? This way, I mean, this particular aspect of preamble and basic structure. You have read that preamble is not a force or limitation. In general, no. But yes, as far as basic structure is concerned, secularism is a basic structure. Secular word, preamble. Now the government wants to amend preamble and remove secular. Not the government, I mean, if at all it happens. Right, basic structure. Limitation. Right? The mind of the makers. Kahan pe milega? Preamble of the Constitution. Democracy is superior virtue lies in the fact that it calls into activity. Tell me. Why? Because I have explained that. Isn't it? The intelligence and character of ordinary men and women. Democracy. Karl Marx explained the process of class struggle with the help of which one of the following theories? Tell me. What is empirical liberalism? What is the meaning of empirical? Scientific experience? Not necessary scientific. No, it's not necessary. That which is based on experience. Not necessary. Experience need not be this evidence based. Can be. Main is experience, not thought. That which you see, that which you perceive. I have some problem with my eyes. Seeing you have all black or blue. Are you actually black and blue? No. So right. So the evidence, according to me, the evidence is that you are having black and blue. It is my evidence, but it's not. Leave it. Chodo. Dialectical materialism. You understand this? Consider the following statement. Abhi batao. A constitutional government is one which? Only two. How both? Constitutional government is a limited government whose power is limited, restricted. When the power of the government is restricted, state's authority is restricted, individual will have more liberty. The purpose of the constitution is to provide rights to people and duties to state. The purpose of the constitution is to limit the power of the state and expand the scope of rights for people.
Reasonable restrictions are executed.
So because the government is limited by the constitution, and constitution provides some restrictions of individual in the interest of state authority.
In case of
Article 19,
restrictions, then it might be a contradiction.
The definition, the theory or the concept of constitutional government means a government whose power is limited, restricted by a constitution which can be written or unwritten. Essentially means the state authority is restricted in favor of citizen. Always remember, constitution in democracy is the product of citizens' fight for right. You see, popular sovereignty, my authority, my sovereignty, I am giving to somebody else. So I will put some checks on them or not. So I am giving you power because I want to use my rights properly. I need to go out at night without fear. I need to protect my property. So effective checks on the government. The Constitution is a document which prescribes governmental power as well as proscribes governmental power. Restriction, proscription, limitation.
so the constitution
True, but that's true. We are not disagreeing in that. But the point is that constitutional government is one which restricts the governmental power in favor of the rights of citizen. That is the problem. What happens is that if we try to interpret differently, your interpretation should be limited to this. If you try to add other reasonable restriction, etc., then there will be a problem of confusion. Don't do that.
Next question you
No, 1 minute. Hey. 8, 9. India, very easy. 26th January. B, sovereign democratic republic. Yes, because secular was later, socialist later. Now you see this. Constitutional government means. That is why POQ is very important. 3-4 times this is asked. Right? Constitutional government. क्या आंसर है? A government limited by the terms of the Constitution. Limited. Keyword. State. बताओ. Which one of the following defines the same state? Remember 4 characteristics. I am giving 1 minute. Tell me. Four characteristics. What are the 4 characteristics? A community of people, which means population. Permanent territory. Independent external control. Sovereignty. Government. Very good. Very easy. Isn't it? Because the sovereignty is absent from other 3 options. Are you able to understand? Go home, revise your notes properly, then all this become very easy. Isn't it? Don't worry. Which one of the Which of the following factors contributes or constitutes best safeguard for liberty? China has election. Okay, they have said this liberal democracy. Fine, China does not have liberal democracy. The best answer, the best safeguard liberty is separation of power. Because separation of power will mean that the judicial will be there, which is independent, which will have the power of judicial review. Right? Elected government does not guarantee. You know this. This is self-explanatory for you. Why elected government is not a guarantee.
So, but it will not be democracy without elected government.
Best safeguard is separation of power. No, multiple, you should think in the sense that what is being asked. Best safeguard. An elected government is there. Elected government has majority. Just because there is elected government, is there a guarantee for that? If elected government says that I can make any law, I can bring any policy, because people have elected me, I can make any law. UAP was made by the electoral bond. Brought through amendment to Finance Act, isn't it? This Income Tax Act, Companies Act, what is the name? This FCRA. That is what separation of power will enable the violation of liberty by the judiciary. Because the liberty of the individuals are violated generally by the state and the administration. So it requires a independent judiciary in order to safeguard it.
Separation of power without an elected
We are not writing a mains examination. Your option should be limited to these 4.
So, but separation of powers is there, so without, so if we have separation of power without an elective government,
You want to argue, you can argue with the UPSC because UPSC has given the answer as separation of power, which is acceptable, which is appropriate. Although we can have some difference of opinion with respect to UPSC, but not in this question. Right, separation of power. Because separation of power means what? What is the idea behind separation of power? Okay, let me put it this way. Who has given the idea of separation of power? Montesquieu, the spirit of laws. Why? Because absolute concentration of power. Separation का opposite क्या है? Concentration. The concentration of power in monarchy or in one institution, one organ, resulted into violation of liberty of people. Law made by the monarch, implemented by the monarch, adjudicated by the monarch. So, violation. There cannot be any justice in that. So, separation is required. For that, authority of the organs are limited. Earlier, legislative, executive, judicial authority concentrated in the monarch or whatever authority that might be. Separated. Separation leads to checks and balances. Separation of power will lead to checking the activities of one organ by the other organ, which will lead to protection of rights of citizens. So the essential idea of separation of power resulted from protecting what? For the protection of liberty of individuals from the intervention, interference of the state. That's the idea. अब बताओ, by definition. Limited government. Very easy. How many times they have asked constitutional government? Minimum 4 times. You will also get after. Now, in the context of India, which one of the following the characteristics appropriate for bureaucracy? Batao. An agency for the public policy. Very easy. Why D? Because we explained it. Although you know even before that. Very easy. Abhi batao. 15. Preamble of the Constitution is. Voice is echoing. Acha. It. Voice. सही है? अच्छा, ठीक है. I'm glad that I still have voice. What is the answer? This one, preamble. A part of the Constitution, but have independent authority. Absolutely, D is the answer. Preamble has legal effect, but with other, not independent. What is first? A part of the Constitution, yes, part of the Constitution, but has no legal effect. It has legal effect. Legal effect or not, provided read with other part. Not independently, it does not have. That is what is said, na? Conflicting provisions. Take help of preamble. It will help in interpretation. Aid to interpretation. Judicial review, you can see if you want. One common agreement, अब बताओ. अरे यार. When there is struggle, there will be conflict, there is violence. Can non-violence and struggle coexist together? Gandhi talks about non-violence. When did? Can you see class struggle in Gandhian approach? Gandhi always talk about non-violence, harmony, coexistence, cooperation. But one similarity is final goal of stateless society. Another similarity. What is that another similarity? Equality. Another similarity, individual freedom. ठीक है? Dissimilarity, one violence, another non-violence, class struggle, harmonious, trusteeship and communism. You can say the dictatorship of this proletariat, here organized anarchy. If you get a question in GS1, you have the ready-made answer, or wherever that might be. Other practice question, what is the time? You can follow in the class, in the home if you want, or I'll take 5 minutes. What do you want? चलने दो, हमें भी चलना है. But anyway, I'll take two more other practice questions. Which of the following is the most appropriate explanation of the constitutionalism in the polity? Yeah, very important. These are our questions. Tell me. The answer is given. Answer is given. Option D. Why this is not presence of a written constitution? The most appropriate explanation. Because constitution can be there in unwritten constitution also. Strict separation of power. There can never be strict separation. Whether in presidential system or in parliamentary system. In presidential system, more separation, more rigidity. Right? In parliamentary system, separation of power is there or not? Yes? Less rigid, more flexible. There can never be complete separation or strict separation. Which of the following can decrease fraternity? Batao. You have the copy. Which of the following fraternity? Tell me. Decrease fraternity. Gender equality. Yes. Rule by law. Rule by law. Rule by law essentially means what? Rule by law essentially means obeying the laws made by the legislature or the monarch or any authority. Whatever that law might be. Simply means complete obedience. Rule by law. Rule by law is incorrect. That's what I'm trying to say. Sorry. Yes. Correct. Because this rule by law will lead to what? Conflicts. Arbitrariness.
But if it is constitutionally aligned, then it will be a
Rule by law is not. The term rule by law. The term rule by law came essentially, if you see, came from German constitution. This 1948 or 49 constitution. The Weimar constitution. And before that, the Prussian constitution. And the Japanese constitution. Because Japan, the Meiji constitution, earliest one, the emperor's word is the law. Whatever the orders of the emperor, they are the laws, divine laws. So the administration will or the government will rule by those laws. The content of the law, the nature of the law, the effect of the law, whether the law is proper or not, does not matter. So rule by law means, rule by law is a concept which is negative and which can lead to discrimination, let's say violation of rights for people, absolutism, unlimited governmental action, rule by law. Technically speaking, right? Promotion of one language, because this rule by law was when Chief Justice Ramana was the Chief Justice, this person used this rule by law, especially because there was large number of demolition and various other things are happening, right? So it essentially mean absolute arbitrary approach of the administration and the government. One language, yes. Decentralization, no. More decentralization, opportunity for more fraternity. क्यों गलत कैसे? Can decrease. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 आंसर है कि नहीं? ए ऑप्शन है. ठीक है? Last one, administration. बोलो. Absolutely. D. An appointed body of personnel entrusted with the mandate of implementing the decisions of the electoral political executive having governmental authority. Elected. Selected. An appointed body. Appointed. You will be appointed. Mandate implementing the decision of political executive implementation. Having government authority. You have the government authority. Why this is not elected executive? Policy formulation. No policy formulation. Advising the parliament. No, your administration is not advising the elected representative of parliament. You are the advisor of the government, not to the parliament, legislature, not to the legislature. Nominated. You are not nominated. You are selected. In any case, council of ministers, no. The government per se will implement. You are not nominated, you are appointed. Best description. Best is the word, most appropriate best description. Option D. Which of the following cases Supreme Court held secularism? Very easy. Secularism is what? Answer there, sir, very easy. Regulating Act, all these things you should read. Regulating Act and others. I'll try to give some, let's say, Rashmikan chapter 1 and 2, you should read. Historical underpinnings and others. Constitutional Assembly, etc. Right? These are facts you should read. I think you have notes. If at all I have, I'll share. The Constitutional Assembly, what were the function carried out by Assembly, right? These acts, Regulating Act and others. Then, let's say, the committees for the Constitution, Constitutional Assembly, especially those 8 major committees, right? Rules Committee and others. Which, if I get time, I'll teach you because there's a code for it. Through codes, we can understand them, right? For classification of state, etc. Very easy. I'll teach you about this Article 3 of the Constitution because the Jammu and Kashmir state, actual state has been downgraded. Supreme Court has given Article 370. Few things are there, so which I'll teach you as far as the Article 3 is concerned. Right. Tomorrow we'll deal with fundamental rights. Fundamental rights, bring this Constitution of India. How many of you have? The Constitution of India should be brought. PM Bakshi, 17th edition. 150 rupees, 150 rupees, something like that. It is cheaper. Books are cheaper in Rajendra Nagar. Rest everything is costly. Bring this because we'll use the articles of the Constitution through which we'll study. Very important because your books will not be enough for this. Right? Bring this. PM Bakshi, Constitution of India. For that, whenever we discuss, you can write. Because you see, questions are a bit difficult these days. UPSC wanted to make your life a bit harder. That is why questions are framed in this way. Andaman and Nicobar, preamble, very easy preamble question. You do one thing, rest question you solve in your home. But that too after, if you have not revised these chapters, the constitutional framework, historical underpinning, etc., then don't do it. Right? After revising, you do it. Anything you want to ask about what we discussed? Go home, revise your notes properly, solve the questions. What doubts you can ask. Tomorrow we'll deal with fundamental rights. Right? Thank you so much for having the patience and showing interest. Offline, online, people, government, very difficult to answer both offline and online. So if you have some question, you can ask. Bandi, 1 minute. Bandi, wait. Redistribution, yes. License Raj, specialized decentralization, closed economy. Okay, republic, fine, okay. You learned something? Yes or no? Yes. Have you unlearned something? Yes. Have you unlearned? Yes. No? That is more important. Okay, see you tomorrow. Bring this constitution. Thank you so much.